What else can you do with a soaked book? A few weeks ago, I soaked this book and showed you how to recover it using a freezer. Had I left it in there for a while, potentially up to months, considering how cold the freezer was or how wet the book had gotten, it would have gotten completely dried. But let's say you don't have that kind of time, or let's say you don't have access to a freezer that doesn't have auto defrost. That's when you can try air drying. I'm Laura Frolke, certified archivist and owner of Key Archives. I help organizations and individuals protect the stories and information they rely on, including rescuing damaged items like this guy. In this video, I'll walk you through the proper setup for air drying, the steps for air drying, and how you know when you're done. We will need a space that's between 50 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit and has relative humidity between 25 and 35%, paper towels, and 1 or 2 fans that are facing away from the book. Optional, you can have a dehumidifier or a humidifier, blotter paper, or a hygrometer, which is a tool for measuring how much humidity there is. Here in Portland, it gets pretty humid in the winter, so I have set up my guest room here with a dehumidifier that has a built-in hygrometer, and I've been keeping an eye on the temperature using this meat thermometer, which says, yeah, 60 degrees. So pretty good. The humidity has been down to about 45 to 50 degrees percent humidity, which is not ideal, but needs must. We'll see what we do. We'll see how it goes. The first step is to assess how much water is still in there. In our first video, we talked about the Northeast Document Conservation Center's different categories, which tells us that when a book's water is more than ½ inch into the page, it's considered a wet book. Less than ½ inch into the page, it's considered a slightly wet book, and it's damp when it is just cool to the touch. Again, if you have a wet book and you don't have time to freeze it, or you don't have access to a freezer that doesn't have auto defrost, then this is the step where you want to start this process. And also, again, if you have a book with coated paper making it shiny like a magazine, you are going to want professional help. Pages are going to stick together and mold up, and this is not going to be helpful. Step 2 of air drying. Sorry for using numbers for both the video sections and the subsections. We learn as we go. So as the book thaws and the pages begin to separate, that's what you saw me checking at the beginning of this clip, we are going to interleave it every 16 pages or so, plus inside the covers with paper towels. You can use blotter paper if you have it, but if not, an unpatterned paper towel is just fine. Keep an eye on the spine so that you don't overdo it and cause damage. We're going to close it and put it on a few more layers of paper towels. Ta-da! Periodically, I'm going to change out the interleaving and flip the book over. How often do you do that? It depends. When the book is wet, every 2 to 4 hours. Also while it's thawing, since we won't know how wet it is for sure until it's thawed out. As it moves into slightly wet territory, that will spread out to every 4 to 6 hours. And once it becomes damp, we can drop it back to once or twice a day. And you can skip doing this overnight. We're not feeding a newborn here. Once the book is slightly wet, we can take the paper towels out and move into standing it on end and fanning out the pages. It's especially important at this stage to keep your fans in the room from blowing directly on the pages. And then once a day, flip it over. Ta-da. Eventually the book will be almost completely dry. That's when we can press it closed with something heavy to minimize the pages from warping. I used this glass pan, and I did this overnight, and then during the day went back to fanning out the pages again. Ta-da. And finally, when to know when you're done. Eventually, the parts of the book that dry the last, that is the spine, the gutter, this part close to the spine on the inside, and if it's a hardback, then the boards will be dry to the touch. And that's when your book is fully dry and recovered. If at any point during this process you start to see mold, game over. Take it to a professional or throw it out. Tough break, red shirt. Air drying is an involved process, and there's no getting around that. If you're up for it, it can take a lot of time, it can take a lot of space, especially if you have multiple items. But these are the steps professionals use to air dry materials, and if you follow them, you can absolutely recover your own soaked books. If you have any questions about your specific situation, you can always reach out to me at Key Archives, and the contact information for that will be in the video description. Till then, ta-da!